Hello, mathematicians and financial experts. Let's get rolling on some of these tax questions. These are just practice problems. We did not practice these as much throughout the course of the semester as we normally do. So I wanted to spend some time doing this today. You'll notice that each one of these had the similar format of what's the federal tax due, what's the marginal, and what is the effective tax rate. Um, and then we just took some different amounts. So $9,255 salary a year versus a $40,000 a year. All right, let's check this chart out. This is the major thing that we need to note. First of all, note that this is old. It is old. So these numbers are updated for the tax year 2019 as well as the tax year 2020. The idea is the same, though. I just used an old chart. This came from actually you can tell I had a question number over here. This was from a quiz that I gave at some point in the past. So I don't even remember when this was from. It's probably 3 years ago, maybe only 2 years ago. Um, Numbers are the same though, just slightly updated. First things first, let's think if we were making $9,225 a year, what would we have to pay in taxes? Well, we notice that the first income bracket, the taxable income, is between $0 a year and $9,225 a year. That's the number that we have right here. And so that means that we are in the 10% tax bracket. Right away, that means that our marginal tax rate is indeed 10%. That is the definition of a marginal tax rate. What tax bracket are you in? That does not necessarily mean that that is the effective tax rate. Although, if we are in the first bracket, then we necessarily have to be in the 10% effective tax bracket because we will not be reduced. So you will see what I mean by that as we do the $40,000 a year problem. But for right now, know that the effective tax rate is also 10% because we are in the 10% taxable income bracket for our marginal, but all of our money is in that bracket. So all of it is being charged uh, that 10% amount, right? Okay. Now, the question that we didn't answer yet is the first question, right? How much is that a year? Well, two ways to approach this. First of all, we could tell that I could just do, well, what's 10% of 9,225? Well, you all know that we could just move the decimal over one place and say, okay, that's going to be $922.50, right? Notice that we just moved the decimal one space because that's a quick shortcut way to calculate the 10% in our head. So where do we find that value? Right there, answer choice D, and we are done with that first set of problems. Okay, here's where things get a little bit more complicated. I want to slow down just a little bit. Let's go ahead and start answering this question down here, but I'm going to keep this table with me. Um, Once we have passed $9,225 a year in terms of our salary, how much we make every year, then you notice something peculiar about this chart, right? This says that if we are in the range between $9,226 a year and $37,450 a year, then we will pay $922.50. Now, note that is the amount that we came up with needing to pay being in the 10% bracket for the first round of questions. And then it's going to be plus 15% of the amount over $9,225 a year, right? So in this case, I'm not even in this bracket. I'm actually in the bracket right here. So $40,000 is, I don't know, somewhere like right in here, in between $37,000 a year and 37,450 for 51 and 90,750, right? So we're between that. That means we are in the third tax bracket for this question, the $40,000 a year. But the point that I was making is the fact that the reason the effective and the marginal tax rates are not the same normally is because if we are over the 10% tax bracket, then our first $9,225 is charged at 10% tax rate. The next amount of money that we make all the way up to $37,000, 450 is going to be charged at 15%. And then the amount over the 37,451 is going to be charged at 25%, right? Now, the reason that that makes the marginal tax rate and the effective tax rate different is because the marginal tax rate is just what tax bracket are you in? Are you in the 10%, the 15%, the 25, the 28, so on and so forth? The effective tax rate is what percent of your taxable income, or actually of your income as a whole, do you actually pay in taxes, right? So for somebody who makes $40,000 a year, their first $9,225 are only being charged 10%. Their second bracket, all from $9,226 all the way up to $37,450, is being charged 15%, and then only the amount over the $37,451 is being charged at 25%, right? So let's do a real problem with this. This problem, break into the specifics, but hopefully that gives you a good overview of what it is that we're talking about. You don't actually pay your marginal tax rate because the system works in a way that it's a graduated income bracketing system, right? So you graduate up your first 10%, blah, blah, blah. Everything we just talked about. Okay, let's jump into that now and do the actual calculation for this. Okay, so we make $40,000 a year, right? Nice even number. That's awesome for us. That means that we are going to pay 10% on the first $9,225. So that was $922.50. Plus, we're going to be charged 15% on the amount over $9,225, right? Well, check this out. The next tax bracket that we are in for this one says that we need to pay $5,156.25 plus 25% of the amount over 3750. So what this means is that this $5,000 must be the 922.50 that we paid on the first $9,225 we made at 10%, plus this amount of money charged at 15%. Let's just do a quick test on that, and I'll show you with a calculator what that looks like. So our second bracket went all the way up to 37,450, right? So $37,450 minus the first $9,225 that we paid means that we have $28,225 that are being charged 15%. Well, that 15% comes out to be 422 30 or 4 blah, 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 4,220 4,233.75. Now let's add that to the 922.50 that we paid in the first amount. And what you'll notice is that the amount that we get is indeed 5,156.25 because on the second $28,225 that we made, we paid 15% tax on it, right? So that's where that number came from. And then what we're going to be adding to this is the amount over 37,450 charged at 25%, right? So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that same value that we had and I am going to add the amount over 37,450. Well, the amount that we know we make is 40,000 minus the 37,450. Now you'll notice that I put that in parentheses. I now want to multiply that by 25% because we are now in the 25% bracket. I close up my second parentheses and I get 5,793.75. So let's go see if we can find that on our answer choices there. Yep, cool. So 5,973.75, that matches up with everything that we just calculated. Awesome. So that is the federal tax due, right? This question, I didn't copy these into my document just because I got lazy, but what's the marginal tax rate in this case? Well, the marginal tax rate is, well, we were in the 25% bracket, right? So our marginal tax rate was 25%. But what is the actual effective tax rate here? Well, the effective tax rate is simply going to be the amount of taxes that we paid divided by our income. And for this particular problem, we're not, we didn't add in things like, for example, or not standard deviation, the standard deduction, or the personal exemptions or anything like that. So we're just calling this our total income, and I'm just going to divide the amount that I owe in taxes by our total income, right? So take that, divide it by $40,000 a year, and I can see that my effective tax rate is 14.48%. I'm going to just round that to 14.5%, right? So our effective tax rate is 14.5%. So am I really paying 25% taxes? No, I'm paying 14.5% because this is a graduated bracketing tax system that we're working with here, right? And then the last set of questions that you had, actually, I think I only asked one question on this, was just you make $105,000 a year. What is your effective tax rate? Well, in order to calculate the effective tax rate, we kind of got to know how much we actually owe. So let's go ahead, back up to our uh, document here. I can tell that my 105,000 a year is somewhere in between these two numbers, right? So now I know that my marginal tax rate is the 28%. I'm going to go ahead and trust that this number is correct. I'm not going to run through those calculations like we did last time and say that this amount is just going to be 18,481.25 plus the amount over 90,750, right? So that's going to be 105,000 minus 9,750, and that's going to be multiplied by the 28% there. So let's just create a very similar setup to the one that we had before. 18,481 and 25 cents. And I'm going to add that to, I'm going to use my parentheses again just to make sure that you can follow along and see what's going on here. I find that overuse of parentheses for me, I don't know, seems to be better than underuse of parentheses in terms of just being able to follow along. Okay, so I've done my 105,000 minus the top end of the next bracket. I just made a mistake though, didn't I? I got to do times 0.28 because we're in the 28% bracket now. That looks good. And we get a total amount of taxes owed of $22,000. I know that I made 105,000 this year. So when I do that division, okay, looks like my effective tax rate is 21.4%. So let's go see if we can find that somewhere. 21.4%. There it is right there. Answer choice B. So there you go, a review of how do we calculate marginal and effective tax rates, as well as how do we just calculate how much do you actually owe based on what your taxable income is. And again, in this case, we excluded the idea of standard deduction, personal exemptions. We just used, just say that this is your taxable and normal income. Hopefully that is helpful for you all, and I will see you soon.